He laughed as I screamed, "I can't move my legs." But my brother thought it was just another one of my overreactions. My parents rolled their eyes, telling me to stop being dramatic. But the truth was, I couldn't even feel the floor beneath me. Every second felt like a nightmare, and yet the people who were supposed to protect me were the first ones to mock me. That was the moment my life changed forever. Before I continue, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because what I'm about to reveal will leave you speechless. Eleanor had always been the invisible child, the one whose pain never mattered in her own house. So when her brother's reckless prank left her collapsed on the ground, begging for help, no one cared. Her father muttered, "You're fine. Stop the drama." Her mother sighed, always seeking attention. But deep inside, Eleanor knew something was terrifyingly wrong. Hours later, when the pain turned into numbness, she begged to be taken to the hospital. Still, no one moved, until the test results arrived, and the doctor's face went pale. The MRI revealed something so shocking, it silenced every laugh in that room. The waiting room felt like a prison. Eleanor sat in the cold, stiff chair, her body trembling, not just from the pain in her legs, but from the crushing silence of her family. Her brother scrolled on his phone, smirking, as if the whole thing was still a joke. Her mother complained about wasting an evening at the hospital, and her father paced impatiently, muttering about bills. Nobody looked at Eleanor, not once. When the doctor finally walked in, the air shifted. His face was pale, his brows furrowed. He held the MRI scans tightly in his hand. Eleanor's heart dropped. This wasn't routine. This was serious. "Mr. and Mrs. Gray," the doctor began carefully, "your daughter's condition is not what you think. She wasn't being dramatic. She wasn't faking." He laid the scans on the table, pointing at the dark shadow running along Eleanor's spine. "She has a rare spinal condition that has been progressing quietly for years. What happened today only triggered the symptoms to surface. If this goes untreated, she may lose the ability to walk, permanently." The words crashed over Eleanor, like a storm. Lose the ability to walk? Forever? She looked at her parents, desperate for comfort, for even a flicker of care. Instead, her father turned red with anger. "This has to be some mistake. She's always been weak, always exaggerating." Her mother shook her head in disbelief, whispering, "No, this can't be real." But Eleanor knew it was real. She could feel it in her bones, literally. The numbness, the sharp pain, the heaviness in her legs. It was her body's desperate cry for help. The doctor leaned closer, his voice urgent now. "She needs treatment immediately. This isn't something she can walk off. The longer you delay, the higher the risk of paralysis." For the first time that night, the room fell silent. Her brother stopped smirking. Her parents exchanged worried glances. But the damage had already been done. Eleanor would never forget how they laughed, how they dismissed her suffering, how they made her feel invisible at the very moment she needed them most. And as the weight of the truth settled in, Eleanor made a vow in her heart. "If they won't stand for me, then I'll stand for myself, no matter how hard the road ahead will be." The days that followed were a blur of hospital corridors, whispered conversations, and the constant beeping of machines. Eleanor lay in the sterile white room, her body strapped with wires, while doctors rushed in and out, discussing tests and possible treatments. Every time she looked at her parents, she hoped for a smile, a touch, maybe even a comforting word. But all she saw was irritation, an unspoken resentment, as if her illness was an inconvenience to them. Her mother complained about the cost of treatment, whispering to her father when they thought Eleanor couldn't hear. "It's too expensive. And for what? She'll never be the same again. Her father sighed. We can't put everything into this. We still have Dylan's future to think about. Dylan, her brother, the golden child who always received. Their pride, their money, their dreams. Eleanor's heart shattered. Even now, when she was fighting to keep her legs, to keep her life, she was still second place, still unseen, still disposable. One night, as she lay awake staring at the ceiling, she overheard the final blow. Her parents stood just outside her door, their voices low but sharp. We can't afford this surgery, her father said. Then what do we do? Her mother whispered. A pause. Then words Eleanor would never forget. Maybe we just let it be. She'll have to live with it. At least Dylan won't suffer because of her. Her body went cold. The tears slid silently down her cheeks. They were willing to let her lose her ability to walk just to save money, for her brother's sake. That night, Eleanor realized the truth. Her family would never choose her. But in the middle of that heartbreak, something inside her shifted. She clenched her fists and whispered to herself, if they won't fight for me, then I'll fight for me, alone. From that moment, Eleanor wasn't just a patient lying in a hospital bed. She became a warrior, ready to rise against the odds, even if it meant walking away from the people who should have loved her most. Morning after morning, Eleanor dragged herself through painful therapy sessions. Her legs trembled, her arms ached, and the physical therapist's words echoed like both torture and hope. One more step. Don't stop. You can do this. She bit down on her lip until it bled, refusing to cry. Not in front of strangers. Her family rarely visited. On the days they did, her brother sat scrolling on his phone, complaining about the Wi-Fi, while her parents kept checking the clock, eager to leave. They thought she wasn't paying attention, but Eleanor noticed everything. The way her mother avoided her gaze, the way her father looked disappointed every time she failed to stand without support. And yet, it wasn't their approval she wanted, anymore. She began fighting for herself. Late at night, when the ward was quiet and the nurses had gone, she would push her body beyond its limits, forcing her legs to carry her weight for even a few seconds. Every stumble felt like defeat, but every second she stood was proof that she wasn't broken. In those lonely hours, she started journaling. Each page was filled with anger, grief, and promises. I will walk again. I will live again. And I will not beg for their love ever again. But the world has a way of sending light in the darkest of places. One evening, as she sat in her wheelchair, by the window, a nurse named Clara stopped by. Unlike her family, Clara didn't look at her with pity or irritation. She smiled, handed Eleanor a cup of tea, and said softly, You're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. For the first time in weeks, Eleanor felt seen. Clara's words became her fuel. With every session, every painful step, Eleanor wasn't just rebuilding her legs. She was rebuilding her soul. And deep inside, she made a silent vow. One day, when she finally stood tall again, she would walk out of her parents' shadow forever. Weeks of therapy felt like years. Eleanor's hands were calloused from gripping the parallel bars, her body covered in bruises from countless falls. But she refused to give up. Each drop of sweat, each painful cry that escaped her lips, was proof of her resilience. Then, one morning, something changed. The therapist placed her in front of the bars again. Eleanor's legs shook violently, her body screaming in protest. She closed her eyes, remembered her parents' cruel words. She'll never be the same again. Rage flared inside her chest, and with a guttural cry, she pushed harder than she ever had before. Her foot moved, just one step. But it was hers. The The room went silent. The therapist froze, eyes wide, before whispering, "Do it again." And she did. Another step, and then another. Tears blurred her vision as she realized she was walking. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but walking nonetheless. Outside the room, Clara clapped softly, her eyes shining with pride. But when Eleanor turned, she noticed her parents in the doorway. For a brief second, she hoped to see joy in their faces. Instead, her mother sighed, whispering, "Finally. Now maybe she won't be such a burden." Her father simply nodded. The words cut deep, but this time they didn't break her. Eleanor straightened, gripping the bars with steady hands. She wasn't walking for them. She never would again. That night, she wrote in her journal, "Today I walked, tomorrow I will run. And when I do, I'll run toward a life where I am enough, without them." For the first time, Eleanor wasn't afraid of the future. She was building one for herself. A few weeks later, Eleanor's progress shocked everyone at the clinic. She could now take slow, steady steps without the bars, her determination stronger than the weakness in her body. Nurses admired her, Clara cheered for her, but her family remained the same, distant, cold, and unimpressed. One evening, Eleanor overheard her parents talking in hushed tones. "She's almost recovered. Soon she can start working and paying us back for all these hospital bills." The words pierced her heart like a knife, but instead of breaking her, they gave her clarity. That night, she sat by the window in her wheelchair, staring at the stars, and whispered to herself, "I am not a debt to be repaid. I am a life to be lived." The very next morning, Eleanor made her choice. With the little savings she had, and with Clara's support, she signed herself out of the hospital. For the first time in years, she didn't look back at her parents, waiting by the car. She simply walked, her steps shaky but filled with more strength than ever before. As she moved forward, tears streamed down her face, not of pain, but of freedom. She was no longer the broken girl begging for love. She was Eleanor, a survivor, a fighter, and a woman ready to build a life on her own terms. In her journal, she wrote her final promise. "I will never walk back into the shadows that tried to break me. From this day on, every step I take belongs to me, and me alone." And with that, Eleanor disappeared into the sunlight of her new beginning.